morning, as we are joined by VolQuest's and On Three's Brent Hubbs a day early today here on this Hour 3. What's up, Brent? How are you, sir? Hey,
I'm doing outstanding, guys. It's a 4-day work week, sitting by the dock of the bay this morning. Ramon, I'll do anything for you, Ramon. I've just got back from a little leisurely stroll this morning in the sand, and here I am. You know, for Ramon, it's all about Ramon Foster. We're 100 days away from Ramon being in the booth.
Yeah.
Ramon, you going to throw up pregame?
I probably will. I probably will, Hubs. I'm probably going to have some dry heaving going on. I'll probably be sweating.
Brent and Mike K and Franklin are going to be just calming down, whispering sweet nothings to just. Fine. It's going to be good, Ramon.
Yeah.
Hey, Ramon, avoid the breakfast burrito. That's all
what I heard. Yeah, that's what we are this morning, man. 100%, Hubs. Just piecing my mind together. I'm slowly going through, little small stuff. I'm reading almost any and every article just to be up on stuff. We doing this around the SEC preview, Hubs. I ain't saying I'm nervous, but there are signs.
But there are signs.
Mike Tomlin and Mike K. You know what I'm
saying? That's a lot of truth to that. A lot of mics in my life, man. I speak on one now.
And microphones.
Who would imagine? Exactly, Hubs. Here we go, man. The real question is how you gonna be on this ride if we have to ride together, Hubs? I got my playlist is slowly coming together. It was Brooks and Dunn right there, booting and scooping.
There you go.
There you go. We're making progress.
We're making progress, Hubs. That's all we're doing, man. That's all we're doing.
We'll see. That'll be the problem with that, Ramon, is we might go down Friday evening, which means that's an after-hours ride, which I don't know what that playlist looks like when it goes after hours. It changes, right?
Listen.
That's where Glorilla makes an appearance.
That's where Glorilla makes an appearance. The Electric Ballroom and the Red Iguana come back to me.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
I love the fact that people driving in Nashville going, why am I just listening to this private conversation?
Hey, at least we know that the gas station at Rocky Top with James Banks had a whole lot of issues.
Oh, come on now.
As you're on the vacation, a little bit looser conversation, do that stuff kind of happen still, where you got to monitor the gas station wing spots or the bars and clubs that guys frequent? Are we past that era?
I think we're past it because of social media and phones, camera phones. Think about it now. You're standing out in the parking lot at Rocky Top back in the day, guys doing what they were doing. How many people driving by would have taking a snapshot or taking a picture and snapped it out or put it out on Twitter or social media. I think guys have to be, college guys have to be so much more mindful of that than what you guys had to be and had to do. So I don't think those things happen. I think guys are hanging out at other people's apartments and stuff like that. Here's the other thing too, Ramon. When you have morning practices, and it's hard to roll out on Thursday night and hit the scene. Of course, the Strip no longer exists,
right?
As you know it. But it's hard to go out to those things because you got to be in the complex at 6 a.m. Yeah. Unless you're Dale Carter and you just don't go to bed. Which, there's not many of those rolling around in this world. Most people need a little bit of sleep before they practice. He's the exception.
It is crazy. The Strip thing too that's the one thing that I'm not old enough to say much of. Back when I was in college, but it's already changed even from when I was back in college, Brent. It pains me a little bit just driving through Knoxville and seeing the current state of Cumberland Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's a residence now. Yeah. It's just residential, right? and it's just again us old farts that like nostalgia miss some of the. We missed some of the chicken finger places.
Yeah.
And, we missed the Copper Cellar and OCI's and those places. But, hey, we can't stop progress, right?
Old College Inn, baby. Old College Inn. Golly. The dagger in my back, I'm going to be honest with you. The dagger in my back, Hubs, was Cal Holmes. Okay, that one got me right there, okay? Copper Cellar, that did me in, Hubs. That's when I knew we were done with the Strip, when the Copper Cellar left.
You had Burger Wednesday at the Copper Cellar.
Yeah.
You go and find Charlie Peppers and get you a little chimichanga, and life was good on the Strip.
Well, sure was.
It was.
Sure was. Well, on to what is happening in Knoxville that looks very different than what it did a couple of years ago. And with 100 days until kickoff, Brent, if I were to ask you right now, outside of the quarterback position, which is obviously a huge question mark, what is the next biggest question mark you have about this football team today, 100 days away from week 1 against Syracuse?
Aside from, I don't think Jamal McCoy's good. It's hard for me to see him being ready game one. So I think I'm curious to see, is that Colton Hood? Is that Jalen McMurray? But if you're talking about position, it's about the receiver spot. Because, Chris Brazzell had some catches last year, but I don't think anybody believes he had the year that we thought he was going to have going in. So I think the biggest question, and it goes hand in hand, is quarterback and wide receivers. Because I think teams are going to start out letting Tennessee run the ball, and kind of do what they do and see if they're committed to driving the football. And then if they don't worry about the receivers out there, they might actually put some extra people in the box, and you don't empty the box out with formation. Instead of putting the safeties back and, worry about the ball getting thrown over your head, if you don't think the receivers are a threat to you and you can play a man up outside, you might get extra people in the box and defend the run game differently. Now, nobody did that last year, and Tennessee wasn't the most effective throw-it-over-your-head football team, as we all know. But somebody's got to make a play at receivers. So for me, it's going to be about receivers. Now, you say that, and it's like, well, if your 4 new offensive linemen can't block anybody up there, then who cares what the receivers can do? So, Ramon, it probably starts there in all reality, because if you can't block them, then you can't run it. And if you can't block them, you can't protect it, then you can't do a whole lot on offense. So I just feel a little better about that offensive line. I think David Sanders is going to have some growing pains, but he's going to be a good player. I love Wendell Moy. I do. I think Wendell Moy is going to be a really good player. I think that was a really good transfer portal get for Tennessee. I think he's going to be an anchor for them at guard inside. I love his physicality.
Brent, talking about that running game, and I know you guys are doing position previews right now at VolQuest.com, and great stuff there. You wrote about Peyton Lewis finding a different gear to his game in the second half of spring practice. What was he doing that coaches liked, and what was he kind of doing to maybe come on strong a little bit and put himself back in that conversation as 1A and 1B with Deshaun Bishop for this season?
Well, he was looking up, and Deshaun Bishop was walking away from him, and he was walking away with the job. And I think he just got more committed, got more detailed on the little things that they were looking for, and, performed much better the back half of spring. I just think it was the focus thing and details. Remember this, too, about Peyton Lewis. First time he's ever gone through a college spring. Last year he was hurt. And so, and Ramon, you can speak to this, when you come in, the first time you kind of go through the full year-round cycle, it's different. Yeah. And I think for Peyton, he had to kind of get his sea legs under him a little bit, like, hey, this is not high school spring ball, and he was probably on the track, not going through a lot of high school spring ball. So it was kind of a new thing for him. And I just think he had to focus the way he needed to on the little details, things he needed to do to get better. And I think, the interesting thing about that whole room is I think that's going to be as competitive as a position group as Tennessee has on this football team. Now, the question is, are they going to play 2 or are they going to play 3? How are they going to play? Because you've got Bishop and you've got Lewis, who I believe are 1A and 1B. And then you've got the freshman DeJuan Morris, who's got a lot of skill. Where does he go? Where's Star Thomas factor into this? And does Darrell Sims play 3 or does he play 2? Last year he played 1, basically. He spelled Sampson some, but they obviously leaned hard on Dylan Sampson. So how do they manage that position group? How do they distribute the carries is going to be interesting to watch. And I think because players are not real sure, I think that is a very competitive group this offseason. Get ready for fall camp.
No doubt about it. Our good friend Brent Hubbs is with us this morning. If you guys aren't subscribed to VolQuest, please do, because Hubbs is doing a position-by-position preview. And I kind of want to go to the linebackers right now. You mentioned Wendell Moy being one of the big pickups for the Vols. I like to throw in there Coach Inge, linebackers coach. Having run into him, seeing how intense he is, and not just that, seeing a response from him with Jeremiah Telander and also the expectation of Arian Carter. What you expect from that group, Hubbs, going into this fall? Because they got to lead in a big way.
Well, I think Arian Carter has the highest ceiling of anybody, and I don't think he's hit that ceiling yet. And that doesn't mean he's played poorly. I just think his ceiling is that high. I'm fascinated to see what kind of steps he takes this offseason, coming off the shoulder injury, from a leadership standpoint, from a get guys lined up. He got thrown into the fire that way a year ago because Keenan Peely was the old guy who was going to handle all the checks and get everybody lined up. Peely goes out with the injury, and then here all of a sudden Arian Carter's being thrust it's not just about playing fast and doing your job. Now you got to make sure everybody else is where they're supposed to be. I'm really fascinated to see his growth mentally. That's why I'm not worried about the shoulder injury, because physically I know what he can do. But how much better is he mentally to eliminate the false steps, to get guys lined up, to make sure the D-line in front of him, was making the right adjustment, and, he's communicating with the safeties in the back end. I think his communication skill is something that is going to be really important for Tennessee's defense this year. And then I love Spillman. T. Lander's an old school, in-the-box kind of downhill guy. I'm not sure he's a three-down guy. You're going to probably get him off the field in some passing situations. But I think Spillman is a guy who can certainly clog up things and move forward. And then I think the question is, who are the young guys? Is it Brendan Ains? Is the freshman, who made some noise? Is he going to be there? Kind of what do they look like beyond those top three? Pretty comfortable with who their top three are. Going to be pretty interesting. Is it Jordan Burns, the redshirt freshman? Where is he at in the competition? You had those two freshmen miss spring because of in Harmon and Pilati because of the shoulder injury. Where do they put themselves when they come back? They need another guy or two to come on to help them throughout the season, because that group is going to get banged up. It's hard to play a full season with just three linebackers. They really need a fourth and fifth to come on, but it starts with a fourth, and who's that fourth going to be?
No doubt. I'm just as excited about this next group, Hub, that I'll bring up as almost any position on this team. I think it's deep with talent, and I think they got to be very quarterback friendly because of the young wide receivers, and that's the tight ends. Hubs, how deep can that group be? And not just that, they're almost set up to where when one leaves, the next one comes up and make his plays and go to the draft. This group of tight ends is about as talent-rich as any group, I think, in the nation, Hubs.
Well, it's talented, but it's young.
Yeah.
And so what you have in Miles Kitselman. All right, he's going to do the dirty work every day. And we wrote it in the War Room a couple of weeks ago. The best news Tennessee's probably had offensively to this point in the offseason, other than the arrival of Joey Aguilar, is the fact that Kitselman is going to be back in August ready to practice. Now, they're not going to beat him up in fall camp. They know what he can do. It's about getting him to Syracuse. But his rehab is ahead of schedule. He's almost a full month ahead coming off that injury that he suffered, in the weight room. So I think when you look at it for Kitselman, it's just about be ready. But you know what you have there. The question is, look, we all look at Ethan Davis and go, man, bus guy, right? Like first guy off the bus. We love the way this guy looks. How much of a step does he take physically in doing all the things he needs to do? I love the fact that he and Kitselman have gotten so close, and he considers Kitselman a real mentor. And I think Miles has really tried to help him understand how to be a tight end instead of a big wide receiver lining up at the tight end position, because there's a magnitude of difference there. Mm-hmm. And I think Ethan Davis is getting more physical. But you got to remember this about Ethan Davis. There were weeks last fall he didn't play a snap because he was so inconsistent during the week on the practice field. This is his year. He's got to take a real step this offseason and this fall, but there's a ton of talent there. And then we saw Jack Van Doorslayer, who's probably further along than Deshaun Brame is from a physical standpoint. And then I think the unknown is this Cole Harrison, who redshirted a year ago. He was limited some in the spring, but Tennessee's pretty high on him. So where are they at? Are they going to end up going 2 deep at tight end, or are they going to go 4 deep at tight end? That all depends on Harrison and Brame and Van Doorslayer. The one thing that you got to give this staff some credit for in their adjustment the last couple of years is they've been more willing to play young players. Yeah. Now, it's been more on defense than it has been on offense. It's going to be forced on the offense this year, but there is a little different mindset that, hey, you play your youth. You can't sit around and wait, because if you sit around and wait and the guy doesn't play and he's good enough, he's going to go in the portal on you. So you've got to play young players. Tennessee's going to be young. They're going to have to play some of those young tight ends, but they are very talented, Ramon.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest's on 3, our guest this morning on Ramon and Will. Brent, I got the chance to see Joel Wyatt yesterday doing the state track meet. There are not a lot of guys at 6'4" that move like that with his size, running a 10.79 yesterday at the state track meet at Spring Fling in Murfreesboro. I know he is scheduled to be in town for the 865 live event coming up. Just how big of a battle is brewing there with Vanderbilt, and how big of a weekend is this coming up for Tennessee to get one of the top players in the state and a top 60 player in the country?
Well, Vanderbilt's definitely in it right now, for sure. And, again, we've talked about this. You've got some schools with the rev share coming in that are in a different place financially than they've been the last couple of years. So you have to, the haves, there are more haves than there were. Some of those have-nots are haves now because they've got money. And he's a priority for Vanderbilt. He's a priority for Tennessee. I think getting him to town this weekend is huge. I think it's really important. LSU's still trying there. Ole Miss still trying in there. Vanderbilt's certainly in there. Tennessee needs a good weekend with him. He likes Tennessee. I think the people around him like Tennessee. But Vanderbilt's done a really nice job recruiting him and gotten themselves entrenched in there. And I think that's going to be a battle to the finish line with him. But, boy, he is a pretty-looking athlete. There's no doubt about that.
Unbelievable.
When you see those, you go, hey, that's how they're supposed to look.
Yeah.
Unlike me. That's how they're supposed to look.
That's what they were saying about me in 03.
I'm with you.
What, they were saying you're supposed to look like that?
That was Ramon was the kicker for Ripley High School. They were saying, that guy looks a little different.
Hey, ask my opponents about me then.
Ramon, that was pre-camera phone days, man. Come on, man.
No face, no case, Hub.
That was taking your toe and kicking it to the uprights.
Did you pull your toe back? Did you have one of the straps?
I did.
Did you kick straight on and pull the toe back?
Yeah, I did, 100%. And ran down and made tackles on kickoff.
Legendary. You were before your time with the new kickoff rules in 2025.
More you can do, baby.
Brent, I wanted to.
Hey, did you put that on your huddle highlight? Did you show your skills?
You know we didn't have that back then, man. We was on scout.com back then.
Back in the day. I love it. Brent, I wanted to ask you about Zach Groves real quick, the East Robertson product.
We finally got one of the Groves.
Commits to Tennessee, 6'4", 240, and a lot to like about this prospect.
Yeah, no doubt. Great upside, edge rusher, 240, who's obviously only going to get bigger and stronger. And he's got a twitch about him. He's got some body lean about him. I think that's a guy with a high ceiling, certainly a priority for Tennessee and has been that way. And, Tennessee assumed nothing there and really worked at that one. And, he just wanted to get it done. And I think we're seeing that a little bit more and more with the recruiting process, that a lot of kids and their families are just kind of wanting to get it done. When they went to unlimited unofficial visits, a lot of us thought, man, some of these kids are going to take 12, 15 visits. Nobody's taking 5 official visits anymore. Like, guys are just getting stuff done. They just don't want to be necessarily bothered by the process as much as they used to, because it's obviously different from a financial standpoint. And, when you get your number where you like it and you like the place, you just get done. And I think that's why you're seeing so much recruiting being done, 6 months before signing day, because guys aren't taking 7 or 8 official visits, and they're getting it done before their senior season starts. And by the time they get to this part of the summer heading into their senior year, they've got it whittled down pretty good to 3 or 4 schools, because they've, taken a bunch of unofficial visits when they were young, and the process is just ending faster. It's just it's different than it was, several years ago when everybody's like, man, it's unfair. They only get 5. I mean, they ought to be able to take 6 or 7. I mean, you don't get anybody to take 5. Somebody takes 3, man. They got a heavy visit load anymore.
Hubs, real quick, too, man, just to condition the people, because it seemed like it may happen, but Danny White was also named the AD of the Year by the Sports Business Journal. And I stopped on business because business must come first for a guy like Danny White to keep this thing afloat. One, congrats to him, Hubs, speak on that, but also just the idea that business with Adidas might be a thing.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, business with Adidas is definitely a thing. They're going to be in the hunt here. They're going to make their pitch. They'll make their formal offer, and Nike will have 15 days to counter if they want to counter. We'll see where it's at. I mean, I think the finances of this is a big deal. I think for a lot of kids, they're brand loyal. They like it, but at the end of the day, I don't know how many kids Nike brought to Tennessee when they switched versus when they had Adidas. And I can't sit here and say, I think making the switch is going to cost Tennessee kids either. But, time will tell on that. But there's so much more involved in making those decisions now. I think what's fascinating, and obviously Tennessee's having great success under Danny White. There were a lot of good things in place, and he's accelerated those things, and he's help contribute and make those sports who are already established with good coaching be better because of the resources he's given them and the things that they've done. And he's grown the budget and all those things business-wise. This next week is going to be really, really fascinating because you got this new state law that Tennessee's put into place that's contrary to anything that the commissioner and the SEC and the commissioners and other conferences want. What's the reaction to that? What's it going to be like in Destin? Are other schools going to get on board with what Tennessee is doing and what they want to do in the state? Danny White's going to stand on the table, I would say, because he's already championed collective bargaining. He's been about collective bargaining for a year and a half because he thinks ultimately that's where this thing has to land to get some parameters in place for paying kids and managing NIL. I don't think a lot of the powers that be that have put this commission in place to try to regulate it, I don't think they're in a position of collective bargaining. They've spent too much time putting this plan in place that they think it'll work, and all these states, including Tennessee, are coming up with ways to circumvent their plan for management of it all. How does that look? I think it's going to be a really fascinating week next week and an interesting summer because it feels like this is going to kind of come to a head with these conferences and states doing stuff like Tennessee's done.
VolQuest's Brent Hubbs joining us this morning here on Ramon and Will, getting a well-deserved vacation this weekend, joining us a day early. Appreciate you making time for us, Brent, and we will talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Have a great weekend, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Brent Hubbs with us here this morning, brought to you by Ascend Federal Credit Union, your financial partner for every stage of life. Great stuff as always.
Always.
Appreciate it. The foolishness and the facts.
Yeah.